started. First of all, congratulations on getting to nearly to the end of the semester and nearly to the end of the academic year. I'm very conscious of the fact that as you're more or less, I hope, level 4 students going to level 5. If not, this talk doesn't necessarily relate to you, but there will be another talk at 2:30 this afternoon for those students. This talk is also about giving you information about the modules, the choices that you have to make, and also things to look out for along the way. So on that note, let's get started and think about some of the modules that we'll be offering next year. So the way I've structured this presentation is to first of all give you an overview of the core modules, in other words, the modules that are absolutely essential for your degree pathway and profile. So if you're doing politics, what module to select, IR, what module to select, development studies, and politics and IR. If you have any questions, let's hold on to them at the end because I'm recording this session and you probably don't want your your questions being recorded on YouTube and the like. So there will be time to talk about some of the modules and what we're offering next year. If you don't have one of these module choice fact sheets, please have a look at it and please grab one of them because they will give you an idea of the pathways and how they follow through. If you're one of these students who perhaps came and wanted to study development studies and IR, maybe want to specialise in politics, or if you want to change your degree pathway, then you can do that. And we will have forms available later in the day, and I can send you a form as well via email if you want them. So the first thing to note is that the module fact sheet gives you an idea of the core modules on one side, and then your optional modules on the other side. I'll talk through some of the core modules first for the different degree pathways. Then we'll look at some of the optional modules. Then we'll look at how you actually select and choose your modules. And as many of you are first year students, you wouldn't have done this previously. We'll give you information about how you select your modules online and what's involved in that. So this fact sheet also is available on Blackboard. And Blackboard also contains a link to something called the module catalogue. So I will give information about that in this discussion. So first of all, if you are a BA Politics student, you will follow a particular pathway of core modules at level 5 in the second year. So we've mapped out and we've thought about how your program fits together. So we've balanced a little bit of theory and practice in your second year. And this is the way we've designed the second year. So the first of these modules that you'll be taking will be in semester 1, and it's a module called Western Political Thought. So Western Political Thought is taught by Dr. Bridget Cotter, and also it is a module that surveys the history of Western political thought, looking at up to the contemporary day. So Western Political Thought is a core module, that's semester 1. Also in semester 2 is a module called Innovations in Democratic Practice. And this year, or this coming year, will be taught by Professor Graham Smith. And Innovations in Democratic Practice, it links into developments in contemporary democratic theory, looking at innovations in participation, looking at questions also about representation, how you represent citizens within democracies. So that module is second semester. In the first semester, you also have a module called State and Society, which is also Professor Graham Smith. He's got busy second year teaching duties next year, but Graham Smith is obviously, the module says what it's doing, which is looking at conceptions of the state in a comparative perspective, in a theoretical perspective, and also looking at society and looking at how the society and the concept of society is changing, perhaps in response to developments within the state. Now, this next core module is called Political Research, and this module is core to all the degree programs or the pathways within the department. So Political Research is taught by Professor Simon Yoss. Got a lot of professors teaching in the second year. But Professor Simon Yoss, this is in the second semester, and this really module is about getting you started about research skills, about how you would do and conduct political research, but also feeds through into your final year undergraduate dissertation, which is worth the 30 credits, of course. And this is very much based on workshop type learning. So it's a module that involves you devising and working with your seminar leader as well as traditional lectures. But political research is core for all the degree programs that we have in the department. Now, we have something called optional cores, which are basically you would choose one from the following, but there's nothing to prevent you having some of these modules also as one of your optional modules. So we realize that politics students, some of us are more theoretically inclined, some of us might be thinking about comparative politics and might just want to explore that through case studies and regional sort of area studies. But questioning rights is a module which is taught by Dr. Bridget Cotter, and it looks at the history, the theory of rights and rights-based approaches, and that is taught in the second semester. The next module is also taught in the second semester, which is Introduction to the Politics of the Middle East, and that's Dr. Maria Holt. And Maria Holt looks and introduces you to key debates within the Middle East politics, looking at different case studies, looking at obviously Palestine, Israel, looking at also Lebanon and the politics of the Middle East. So it's an introduction to the Middle East and politics. And then the last module here is called Africa in the World, Politics, Economy and Society, and that's Dr. Hannah Cross, who is sitting at the front of the room. And that module is a new module for next year, so it's an exciting addition to our program, and that's taught in the second semester. It's worth 15 credits. So this is the BA Politics core modules and how they work and function. I'll go through the other degree pathways and then we'll talk about the optional modules, because the optional modules are also the areas where you obviously have maximum choice and you may want to take modules from different strands. So next we move to international relations, and at level 5 we have an exciting sort of menu on offer, a smorgasbord of geopolitics, international security, also theoretical approaches in IR. So the first of these is called Theories of International Relations, which is a first semester module, which is taught by Dr. Matthew Fluck, who's also at the front there. So please ask him questions if you have about this module. It is a 15-credit module taught in the first semester, and it looks at the big theories and the big theoretical concepts that underpin international politics. In the first semester as well, we have international security, which is Dr. Jamie Allenson, which is an international security module, which is looking at the introduction to debates around international security from the Cold War to the post-Cold War era. And obviously, hopefully, you don't anticipate questions about the Arab Spring and looking at the evolution of international security. But if you have questions, please ask the staff who are present in the room. That's what we're here today for. Now, your core optional modules here, you can choose one from the following. So our focus is on regional or area studies in terms of this. So you could become a specialist or want to specialize in the Middle East with that introduction to the politics of the Middle East, which is second semester. Or you might want to focus and develop your understanding of Africa and the world, looking at politics, economy and society. So they're the core modules for the international relations degree. Now, the combined program, which is the Politics and International Relations, involves a number of modules also. So you would take Theories of International Relations, first semester, Western Political Thought, which is also first semester, and that Political Research as well, which is second semester. State and Society, you could choose 2 from the following modules here. So you can choose 2 from State and Society, which is a first semester module, Innovations in Democratic Practice, which is second semester, International Security, which is a first semester module, and Geopolitics, which is a second semester module. So the Geopolitics module is exploring the dimensions of regional politics and regional, sort of looking at the role that geography plays, perhaps in enhancing our understanding of international politics. The Development Studies degree involves a number of core modules as well. The first is obviously Theories of International Relations, because it's combining development studies and international relations. Political Economy of Development, which Dr. Farhang Moradi is involved in teaching, and takes perhaps what you've learned in some of the political economy modules in the first year and looks at it through various case studies, looking at it, perhaps what it means for international development, and it's perhaps a more applied understanding of political economy there. The Political Research module is level 5 as well, is 15 credits. And you have to do that module, obviously, because it's a precondition, a prerequisite for your dissertation. Now, you can choose between two of the modules here. Again, one of them is geopolitics, which is second semester. You have international security, which is first semester. Africa in the world, politics, economy, and society, which is second semester. And oil, globalization, development in the Middle East, which is a module that's in the first semester as well. Now, the reason why I'm stressing the semesters is because it could be that you, hopefully you won't, that you might choose too many modules in the first semester, you might choose, and that means that you have nothing to do in the second semester and you get a bit bored. But there is a danger, perhaps more importantly, of the fact that you might have an unbalanced module profile or module diet, which means that you actually have a lot of assessments banking up and so stacking up. So it's important that when you choose the modules that you look carefully on the sheet to see how many you would have in the first semester and how many you would have in the second semester. Try to get a balance if possible. That's what we generally recommend, so that you can make sure that you are able to sort of complete all the assessments and keep up to date, because there's nothing worse than obviously taking too many modules in the one semester. I'll say about how you choose your modules in a moment, but we have a number of optional modules here, and these are things that you obviously, you follow your passions, you follow the things that you really want to take forward into maybe second and third year. Perhaps you want to use some of these modules to develop your career profile or your professional development. But the number of these modules, these are all optional modules, irrespective of the degree that you are taking. So any module in the department is open to you, provided you obviously have the credits and progress from first year into second year. And it's at level 5. But in the first semester, we have British politics, which is Mrs. Anthony Staddon, which looks at British politics and an introduction to British politics. And Anthony has a number of things like field trips and is obviously somebody who emphasises the applied dimensions of British politics as well. So British politics is a first semester module. Democracy in America is taught by Dr. Ali Tajvidi, who some of you would know from some of your comparative politics lectures possibly. But Democracy in America looks at the history of and the structure of American and US government, federalism, states and the like, and how they interact with each other. Foreign policy analysis is a module which Dr. Franz Pedersen, who's at the back of the room, is involved in teaching. And that's a first semester module, and obviously it does what it says on the tin there, which is to introduce you to concepts of foreign policy, to look at contemporary, perhaps the evolution of foreign policy, looking at key debates within foreign policy. So if you have any questions, please approach Franz after this session. Governing the European Union, again, many of the modules are titled in such a way as they give you an idea of what they are doing, but the Governing the European Union is an introductory module to the European Union, looking at perhaps changing concepts of European government, things like supranationalism, intergovernmentalism, looking at the way in which the European Commission and other key institutions function and work. And that's taught by Dr. Magdalena Franhoff Larsen, which is also a first semester module. International security, perhaps you're doing a politics degree and you think, oh, I'd like to do a bit of international security, who wouldn't? But international security is a core for one of the IR's modules and some of the other degree pathways, but you can also take it as an optional module, so you might want to focus on that by taking that. Again, same for oil globalization and the development in the Middle East. Although it draws upon and is useful for students in development studies, there's nothing to prevent you from taking this module as an optional module. And this is looking at, obviously, when people talk about the Middle East, obviously oil comes to mind at times, and looking at how that, in looking at perhaps processes of development, energy politics, regional sort of security and development policies. And that module is, I believe, Dr. Farhang Moradi. Is that right, Dibesh? Oil, that's fine, yes, good. Now this next module, it's in alphabetical order in some ways. I hope it's in alphabetical order. But Politics and International Relations Internship, which Rob McMaster, who's also here today, is involved in developing and supporting the internship module. Now an internship module is a credit-based 15-credit module, and it gives you an idea perhaps of some of the things that sort of the applied and work-related learning that we want you to develop as a student here in the department. So the internship is 72 hours that you would complete, and you would have a number of workshops and meetings with a mentor or an advisor who would help you perhaps do things, look at letters, maybe help you find a work placement. But students that do this module and commit to it get a lot out of it. But I guess the thing to think about when you do select an internship is that it might, it involves a lot of effort and additional work. So you should obviously take the time to reflect upon whether you, first of all, want to do an internship and also what you want to achieve and get out of it. So if you have any questions about the internship, Rob is available in this session to answer your questions in relation to that. But it's our sort of employability work-related learning module that we have within the department. And Russia and Eastern Europe, which is taught by Dr. Tassilo Herschel, who some of you might know from your first year political economy module, is obviously looking at the transformation of European states and Eastern and Central European states in the aftermath of the Cold War. So it looks at various states and case studies, and Tassilo, that module is taught in the first semester. State and Society I've mentioned, which is Graham Smith. Theories of International Relations, which I've also mentioned, which is Matt Fluck, and Western Political Thought, Bridget Cotter. So there's some of your semester one modules. Keep in mind the importance of balancing them out so that you're not overloaded, because we have seen some students in the past inadvertently choosing all these modules and then realizing that they were doing everything in semester one, or it feels like they're doing everything in semester one. Now in semester two, you've had your Christmas vacation and it's had your new year. It's time to come back. But you've got Africa in the World, which we mentioned before, which functions as an optional core for a number of degree pathways. But that module is our new module, and Hannah is available to answer any questions about it. Another really interesting module is Gender, Politics and the State, which is taught by Dr. Bridget Cotter, and it explores questions about feminism, feminist politics, the history of feminism, perhaps also looking at questions about gender and how we understand gender, and also has a number of guest lecturers looking at questions like LGBT politics or looking at things like the military. So this is a module that's taught in the second semester by Bridget Cotter. Geopolitics, which is Jamie Allenson, which I think I left off the list earlier, I might have. But geopolitics, again, that's got an innovative and perhaps for some a very daunting assessment, but it's interesting. You can see some of the posters, for instance, that adorn the hallway in Wells Street. But it looks and encourages you to think about how international politics or how politics works within a geopolitical perhaps mindset or view, perspective. Another module is political economy development, which is a development studies core module as well, is Dr. Farhang Moradi. And another module that we have, which is Dr. Richard Barbrook, who's available as well here today to talk about the module, is looking at political gaming and simulations, and that students develop and model and present board games and other types of, discuss the politics of games and how games can be used to understand politics. So Richard's available after this talk as well to discuss that module with you. Innovations of Democratic Practice, which is, again, Graham Smith. Hopefully it's an innovating module, teach you how to innovate in terms of thinking about democracy. That's also available in the second semester. Likewise, the remaining two modules here, which we've already talked about, which is Introduction to the Politics of the Middle East, Questioning Rights, is also one taught by Bridget Cotter. Now, that's an overview, and there's no exam at the end of this. You don't need to be able to regurgitate all those modules off by heart. This isn't a chemistry exam or anything. But we want to look at how we register our modules and some of the facts that we need to perhaps think about. So in the second year, going into level 5, provided hopefully you've all got 120 credits banked and you've sort of passed the first year, you've had a big celebration, you've come back in September, but you must choose 3 optional modules in your second year, level 5. So I've put a little asterisk there because it could mean that you have a perhaps a different type of transcript as a result of your first year. If you find that you perhaps don't have the full 120 credits, then registry will be in touch with you after the exam period, explaining what you need to do in terms of retrieving modules, or in terms of the important thing to note is that we have this very important part of the July examination period called the defer-refer period. So if you've got a referral or a deferral opportunity because there was a problem with the assessment, you might have missed it, or you didn't do so well as you think you would like to have done, then it's important that you retrieve and get that assessment so that you can bank the credit going into your second year. But you should ensure, all things hopefully working out okay for you, that you have 120 credits at the end of this year, and that as a result of that, you're going into your second year with 120 credits, and then as a second year student, you'd also be taking 120 credits. But if you have any questions about retrieving, retaking, or trailing modules, then your personal tutor's a good point of contact. The course leader's also a good point of contact, and registry will be able to perhaps answer some queries about the technical aspects of things like retrieving modules or retaking modules, or if you're missing some credit because perhaps you had some problems with one of your modules last year. So the main thing is to keep in mind the importance of asking for help along the way, because there can be a problem with, you think, oh, everything's okay and rosy, and then you get into your second year and you realize, oh, I've got this problem. So really asking us for help and seeking out the information early on is key, perhaps, to progressing into the second year. So we are lucky in some ways because we do online module registration. So you don't have to spend scribbling your handwriting, and we have to try and read your handwriting. We don't have to do things like that. But we do it online. And the way you do it is through your SRS web account, which I'm sure you are now able to access and love accessing. Probably look every hour at your SRS account maybe. But it's important to know that there's this little link here in yellow highlighted for your assistance called Student Module Registration. So module registration will open up on the 24th of March and it will close, and it will definitely close on the 17th of April. So it's really important that you register your choices by that deadline. Because if you don't, there are some consequences. So there could be that some modules, we would say might be full, for instance, or we might say that we would, that you would have to do it by paper, and that would slow down the process. So it really is important. You're here today, and you're all here on time. So I know that you are punctual people, and I if we could get that done by the 17th of April. I know there's a lot going on, but it really is essential that you meet that deadline. Now, where to get the information about these modules? Now, we've given you one piece of paper, and we know that one piece of paper isn't going to satisfy your queries and thirst for knowledge that you have around our modules and the second year. So it's important that you register and make sure that you go onto the Blackboard site. And there's a link called Module Catalogue. And so, for instance, if you want to know a little bit more about the assessment breakdown for the modules overall, so if you want to think, oh, does I have an exam, or I love exams, and I really want to take this module because I have an exam. Is anyone in that category? No? No, I love exams. I miss doing exams. So maybe I'll do. You can set me an exam, Divyesh. I'll do an exam. But these assessment details are really something that, things like that on the Blackboard site, and will also give you an idea of who is teaching what. So if you love, a certain member of staff, not love, but if you like a certain member of staff, then you should, and you're interested and you thought, oh, I really enjoyed that teacher or lecturer, you can also get an idea of who's provisionally teaching modules for next year. As I say, staffing arrangements can change from year to year. Also, there is on the module catalogue an idea of the more detailed information. Maybe you want to, over the summer, do some background reading on foreign policy analysis or Africa and the world. So you can go into these modules. They're called pro formas. It's not a very nice title, but basically you can find out more about the modules by going onto the Blackboard site and clicking on the module catalogue. And also here we have, and I've put up the internship module as an example, just to give, because this is a module that you might have some questions about, is that you can also get, when you click on those links, you can get an idea of what the learning outcomes are, what the assessment is, and perhaps some of the things to look out for, to think about in choosing the module. So we try and put that information up there, and you link from that from the Blackboard site. Now on that note, I just want to remind you of some facts around module choice. First of all, to note the April 17th deadline, and the bird is telling you here to note that in your diaries. To secondly, make sure that you check Blackboard so that you get the full information about your modules before you register your choices. And also the third thing to look out for is that if you've got academic questions, no point in going and asking people in the library about our modules or asking certain people in the cafe about our module, but to ask academic questions, obviously, of academics. So make sure that you are in touch and ask your personal tutor or contact your course leaders. We do our best to respond to emails and requests, but do keep in mind that during this period, it is obviously the Easter vacation period, but we'll do our best to respond. But academic questions, get in touch with your personal tutor, follow up, speak to members of staff here today. And finally, if anyone's confused, how many are confused? To give me an idea. No. You all have perfect knowledge and understanding, which is what we've taught you in your first year. But if you are confused, make sure that about perhaps the mechanics of module choice, perhaps the module registration, or if you can't get on or you can't get it to work, then make sure that you go and speak to registry, because they're also there to help you make these choices. And what I would stress is it's really important that you choose your modules by the 17th of April.